Welcome back. I'm so glad that you're here with us. Today we're making a scrumptious date caramel babka for New Year's. A babka is a sweet braided yeast bread. Babka actually means little grandmother in Eastern European languages because of the round pleated shape of the original version. The dates actually symbolize gratitude, generosity, and good health and are often used in celebrations. So we're making this to celebrate the new year with family and friends. Okay, so buckle up. This is going to be a bumpy ride. So this is going to be fun. This is going to be an adventure. I'm glad you're here with me. This is a lot more complicated than we usually do, but it's going to be fine. Don't panic. We're going to go through it step by step, and that's what makes New Year's so special is that we stretch ourselves. So this recipe comes from us from NYT Cooking, and it should yield about 8 to 12 servings, so there should be plenty for the whole family. All right, now I know this looks like a lot, but rest assured, like I said, we'll go step by step. Okay, so first we've gathered our tools, and we've got a stovetop and an oven. Not here, but you know what that looks like. We've got a small pot for the caramel. We've got 2 medium bowls and a small bowl. One of these has to be heat proof because it's going to have boiling water in it. And we've got food processor, 8x4 loaf pan. Now I do have this fancy loaf lifter thingy, but you don't have to have that, and we'll see how it works. You can have a larger pan, just not a smaller pan. So 8x4 on that. Now the recipe calls for it, if you don't have this, to be oiled with parchment paper, just to super make sure that it comes out. So we'll do that for yours. And then we've got a baking sheet lined with parchment paper, a large cutting board, or just whatever surface you want to get messy, a rolling pin, a whisk, a spoon, spatula, and it calls for a bench scraper. Now, I don't have one of those. You can use a knife for adults only. I'm going to use this giant pancake flipper, and we're going to see how that goes. So it'll be an adventure. And then we've got a pastry brush or fingers. And as I said in our pre-video, the Greek word for the date fruit is also fingers. That's fun. Plastic wrap, aluminum foil, and optional is a digital thermometer. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the ingredients, but there's too many to fit on the table at the moment, so we're going to reset and be right back. All right, so we're back. We've got all the ingredients. Again, don't be scared. We're going to go through them, and we'll tackle them one at a time. So we've got 4 parts that will all come together to make the babka dough. So we've got the dough, the caramel, the egg wash, and the syrup. So we're going to start with the dough, so that's the most important part. We've got 1.5 teaspoons of active dry yeast, not the fast acting, but the regular kind. We've got 2/3 cup lukewarm whole milk. That will make a difference when we're mixing it with our yeast. We've got 3 tablespoons granulated sugar, 3 yolk only eggs, and we'll do that together. It might take a little bit of practice, but we'll work on it. We've got, let's see. And then the reason why we omit the egg whites from bread is because the yolks make it a little bit softer. When you have both, it can become a little dense, so that's why that's done. And for vanilla, we've got 1 tablespoon, a 1/4 teaspoon ground cinnamon, and we've got 2 cups and 3 tablespoons bread flour, plus a 1/4 for kneading and extra for rolling, and 2 teaspoons kosher salt. And then this oil is for your hands and the bowl. Now the recipe calls for sunflower or grapeseed oil. Apparently it does affect the flavor, but I don't have that, so I'm just using avocado oil. Hopefully that's fine. And then 5 tablespoons of unsalted butter cut into pieces at room temperature. Okay, so that's for the dough. Now we're moving on to the date caramel. So we've got 10 dates, medjool dates. We've got the water that we're going to pour on now. It's going to be boiling at the time, so make sure an adult does it. And just enough water to cover the dates because we're going to soften them. We've got a 1/2 cup dark brown sugar, and 1 teaspoon kosher salt, a 1/4 teaspoon ground cinnamon, and 5 tablespoons unsalted butter at room temperature. Now we're moving on to the egg wash. So we've got 1 large egg and 2 tablespoons water. And then now for the syrup, we've got 3 tablespoons granulated sugar and 3 tablespoons water. And this is just going to be for adults only. That's on the stove top. So the adults and I will do that one. 1½ teaspoons of active dry yeast, 2/3 cup lukewarm whole milk, 3 tablespoons granulated sugar, 3 large egg yolks, 1 tablespoon vanilla extract, 1/4 teaspoon ground cinnamon, 2 cups and 3 tablespoons bread flour, plus a 1/4 cup for kneading and extra for rolling, 2 teaspoons kosher salt, sunflower or grapeseed oil for greasing your hands in the bowl, 5 tablespoons of unsalted butter cut into pieces at room temperature. Now for the date caramel, this will be on the stove for the adults. About 10 large pitted medjool dates, boiling water to soften the dates, 1/2 cup dark brown sugar, 1 teaspoon kosher salt, 1/4 teaspoon ground cinnamon, 5 tablespoons unsalted butter at room temperature. And now for the egg wash, 1 large egg and 2 tablespoons of water. And lastly for the syrup, this will also be on the stove for the adults, 3 tablespoons granulated sugar and 3 tablespoons water. All right, so we're going to start in. I'm going to clear a little bit of space on the board here and we'll be right back. All right, so first let's make the dough. In a medium bowl, although I opted for a very large bowl just in case, go ahead and put in the yeast, which I already added. And then we're going to add the lukewarm milk. So go ahead and pour that in. And we're going to whisk that together just to make sure that it's fully mixed. And then we're going to add in a couple more ingredients here. Okay, so now, yeast is a really interesting thing now that we're putting it in here. It's the fact that it needs activating, that alone, it doesn't fulfill its purpose, just like with us. We let our abilities sit on the sidelines without honing them. They never reach their potential. Talents are great, but if we don't activate them with resolve and dedication, we won't reach our full potential. Just something to think about as we stir this together. All right, so go ahead and add the granulated sugar. No. There we go. All right, the granulated sugar and vanilla and cinnamon. This is all for the dough. Now the cinnamon. All right, so now the eggs. Okay, so we want just the yolk. So we'll have our second container here. So we want to just go ahead and crack it like normal. But when we crack it, there we go, we just want to let it ooze out. It's not, like the prettiest thing ever, but it's functional. Some people have, contraptions, which is fine. Oh, haha, got it. All right, so now we're going to put that in here. Okay, now with our second one. Make sure you remember which bowl is which. Okay. Big guy in here. Oh, it's fine. Still together. Anything can be fixed. A little snotty, but the nice thing is you can still use the egg whites. Make an egg white omelet, maybe. There we go. Close enough. All right, so go ahead and add these, and now I'm kind of gooey. Oh, from this magical sky. Okay, probably wash your hands, but we'll do that later. All right, so go ahead and add that into our mixture. Okay, scared me a little bit. Okay, all right, so go ahead and add that in and mix it. I'm going to put this over here just in case I confuse myself. I'll put it over here. Okay. Make sure that's mixed and the yolk is pierced here. Doesn't look or smell appetizing at the moment, but that's okay. Have no fear. We'll get there. Okay, so now we're going to add the flour. So again, that's the 2 cups and 3 tablespoons of bread flour, not the extra bread flour. So careful with that. All right, and I think we're pretty good here. Okay, so now let's go ahead and add the flour, and then we're going to sprinkle with the salt. That made an interesting sound. Kind of like throwing fresh snow outside. That was just for extra pizzazz. We'll take some extra flour. Pinchish. Okay, that's fine. The important thing is that the bread comes together, not how much it ends up on us, right? We're not looking for perfection, people. We're looking for a result. All right, so it's getting a little bit difficult to whisk. So we'll go ahead and add our salt. Maybe. There you go. Okay. And so it's getting a little lumpy. So I'm going to take my rings off here, and I'm just going to get in there. I'm going to end up breaking my whisk. Now it's going to be obviously very sticky. And what we're looking for is that things are combined and that the dough is shaggy dough, which just means it's not pretty. And it's just kind of like sad and, looks like it could, use 10 more minutes in bed. And then we're going to start kneading it and doing fun things like that once we get the dough out of our whiskey guy here. Come on, buddy. You can do it. If the whisk survives this. We'll see. All right. Okay, so just get in there. And we still haven't used up the flour that I didn't end up on my shirt. So we'll want to make sure that that's nice and mixed in. See how shaggy it is? It's not smooth dough, which is what we're looking for. And then we'll want to make sure that we put the dough out on the surface. I think I'm going to do that now because it's not mixing anymore in. Boy, howdy, this is sticky. All right. You're fine, pup. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, puppy. I'm so out of here. I'm sorry, pup. All right. Just trying to get the little bits in here. And then, so if you have a bench scraper, we'll be using that. Like I said, you can use a knife with adults. I'm going to maybe try my flipper. We'll see. And then we want to lightly oil our hands, which probably should have done before. But that's okay. And then we're going to start kneading the dough. Let's see if it can get down in there. Pup, you're fine. All right, and then let's see. Yeah, we're going to start kneading the dough, and then we just want to give it a nice workout. We don't want to go crazy. But, you know, just like in life, you know, we've got to be consistent, but not perfect. As you can tell, needing to give the bread structure as consistency brings strength to our lives. All right, so we're going to start. All right. Now, the kneading we're going to do for about 5 to 7 minutes. But first, we're going to put in the butter on top, and then we're going to squeeze the dough together before we actually do that. So, there we go. Just add a little, you know, this is it's kind of room temperature-y. Got a little chilly. Hopefully that's fine. If not, we can heat it up. All right. Now we're supposed to squeeze this together, which seems, you know, a little odd, but that's okay. We'll do something. We'll do something new. All right. So we're going to squeeze this together, and then we're going to sprinkle the remaining 1/4 cup of flour on top of the sticky dough, and then we're going to start kneading it. Squeezing. It's a strange sensation. The smell's getting better, although it just kind of smells like butter, and it smells bread-like. Less yeasty, which is good. Squeezing. Should we do ASMR? That sounds pretty good. My apologies. Okay, well, we've squeezed it. That's certainly true. Okay. And then now it's real sticky and gooey. And now we're going to put the rest of this in. It says the rest of the 4th cup, but, you know, if I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure if I measured just the 4th cup, or because it said extra, I put extra. So we're going to see how firm this is before we get crazy with it. All right, so onto the sticky dough. Okay. So it says lightly oil hands, but I mean, well, I guess we put flour in, so sure. Okay, so we're going to start kneading until it looks smooth. It can be easily shaped into a ball. So that's the 5 to 7 minutes. You might need to take turns. We'll see how that goes. So in kneading, we just want to use our palm, and we're going to kind of squish it forward and then roll it back. So it's at the beginning phase. So squish it forward with your palm and then fold it back. So we're just going to do that. So I'll come back when this is a little more formed, and we'll go on to the next step. See you in a minute. All right, so we're back. I've kneaded this. Hopefully it's okay. It's not the smoothest thing ever, but I think it's okay. So now we're going to oil our bowl. So we don't want to get, you know, too crazy with it, but just want to make sure that it's smushed around here. Just want to make sure that it comes out easily when it's done. A little bit more. All right. Okay, so now we're going to put our bowl, our bread in our bowl, and we're going to cover with some plastic wrap. It stays in the box. A little buddy. There we go. Just has a magnetic personality, I suppose. All right. Cover. Well, that'd be easier if I did choose a medium bowl like it called for, but that's fine. All right. So, okay. There we go. All right. So cover with the plastic wrap, and this is called proofing. It's a really important step that gives the dough time to rest before baking. Resting and planning is really important to our lives too. Action is important in order to accomplish our goals, but if we don't give ourselves some time for prep, then we could be spinning our wheels with aimless effort. Just like when I say in every recipe, we get all of our ingredients and tools together before we start, as frustrating as it can be, because all we want to do is the thing. We run before we walk, but it's too easy to end up in the wrong place. So as far as the bread is concerned, in winter, it's a little bit tricky to find a warm, dry place. So I have a couple of wacky suggestions that I found. One is to put the bowl into the oven. Oven is off, with a bowl of water next to it that's close to that's hot, not boiling. And then close the door, let it proof. Again, we're going to proof this for an hour and a half to 2 hours. Or if you, family member has freshly done laundry in the dryer, you can chuck this baby in there and then close the door and it'll do the same thing. So whatever preference you have, we're going to put this in the oven with the hot bowl of water personally. And then we're going to wait for the dough to rise. While we do that, we're going to make the date caramel. So I'm going to put this in the oven. I'll be right back. All right, so the bread is proofing and the water is boiling. So this shouldn't need to be said, but this should only be done by an adult because this is boiling hot water. It's very dangerous. So we're going to take the boiling hot water. We're going to pour it over the dates very carefully. So all we want to do is just soften the dates. So we just need enough water to cover the dates. It does. And 10 to 15 minutes on this guy, and then we're going to continue with the date caramel. So see you in a bit. All right, so we have the date paste, and we soaked that for 10 to 15 minutes. Then we gave each one a little bit of a squeeze as we poured out the water, and then we put it in the food processor, got that to a paste, and that's this. So paste. And then went ahead and poured it in here with that and the brown sugar. And then we've got the salt. And the cinnamon. Okay, so we're going to mix that up until it's combined. And then we're going to add the butter and vigorously, so intensely, mix until combined, and then we're going to set it aside. Now, we're still waiting for that bread to proof, and we're looking for it to get about double in size. So every time we proof, we want it to be about double in size. So I'm going to mix this together, and then when we come back, our bread will be proofed, and we will have the caramel ready to go and ready to spread. So we'll see you in a little bit. All right, so we are done with our first proof, and it looks pretty good. So now we're going to take it out and put it on our surface that we're going to lightly dust with snow, if you will, the flour, and put our dough on. Oh, squishy. Okay, flap it out. That's gross. Okay. All right. Get rid of that. On the floor with you. Okay. All right. So now we're going to take our rolling pin, also lightly dust like so. And we're going to make it into a rectangle. So about from here to here where the lip is, so that we can put our date paste on. So we're going to go ahead and just roll it out. Yeah, it's pretty bouncy. That's good. We're aiming for rectangle. So not a circle, not a square, but a long square, aka rectangle. Okay. Squishy. Looks like a pita bread at the moment. Not what we're going for. That really wants to stay in that particular size. Get more fierce with it. We're getting lots of muscles today between the kneading and the rolling. Boy, we're gonna get buff doing this. All right, looks pretty good. Make sure that it's evenish. Okay. All right, so yeah, so we're looking for about 12 by 14 and a half inch rectangle. Excuse me. So this only goes up to 12 inches, but we pre-measured and it's about to here. So, all right, so we're almost there. I'm using my giant pancake flipper to periodically, just at the beginning, keep it from sticking as it's getting thinner and thinner. And you can do this if you have a scraper. You can do this as well. Okay, so we are almost there. Okay, like pizza or like a beaver's tail dessert. Okay, like a donut. Okay, just want to make sure I don't get a forward section too thin. All right, I think we're there. Okay. All right, so now we're going to take our date paste and we're going to slather it on our dough. There we go. So I'm going to do this and we'll be right back. All right, so with our handy dandy spatula, we got the date caramel everywhere. Okay, so now we're going to roll it towards you. So we're going to roll it long ways and kind of like a cinnamon roll, I suppose. So just start rolling, and that's why we wanted to stick something up in there so that it didn't tear. So we don't want that. Okay. And then we're going to roll it. And then if the dough feels greasy and soft, chill the dough on a baking sheet lined with parchment in the fridge for 10 to 15 minutes. It kind of depends on your climate and how it's been prepared. Okay. Ooh, not bad. Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. So now we're going to grease our loaf pan. And I'm going to do that and I'll be right back. All right. So ours felt a little soft and slightly greasy. So just to be cautious, I'm going to put it in the fridge. So again, on a sheet pan with parchment paper, and I'm going to stick mine in for about 10 minutes in the fridge. And then we're going to grease our loaf pan. So I'll be right back. Okay, so we have our loaf pan that was greased and parchment paper, and I just reuse the same parchment paper. And then, so now we're going to split it. So I'm going to see if this works. If not, I have a knife. So we're going to leave an end connected, just like when we braid, and we'll see. Try on the end. We're going to use a knife. All right. So let an adult do this. We're just going to split it down the middle so that we can braid the ends together. Okay. I think that's all the way through. Yes. Okay. Awesome. All right. So now we're just going to overlap in a rough braid. Oh, that looks pretty good. Oh, squishy. Okay. Huh? All right. Okay. Looks okay. All right. And now we're going to put it in our greased and parchmented pan. Okay, so we'll try to get this thing in here. It's a beefy boy right here. That seems big. Okay, tighter. Let's try tighter wraps. I think that's what's needed here. If I don't goo out everything. Let's try that. Okay, well, we'll try to finesse that a little better in a minute. So now we're going to do our last proofing. So place this, cover it with plastic wrap, let it rise in whatever your preferred method is for 1.5 to 2 hours. Same thing until it's almost doubled in size. Hopefully up, not out. And then I'll see you back in 1.5 to 2 hours. All right, so it's chilled. Now we're gonna put the egg wash on, and like I said, you can use your fingers or if you have a pastry brush like this, and we're just gonna slather it on the top. Now get your ovens going to 375 degrees, and we want to bake until golden and glossy on top because of the egg wash, about 40 to 50 minutes, and the center is about 190 degrees. And then as soon as the color on top starts to get darker after about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the oven, of course, place some foil over top to prevent it from getting any darker because we don't want it to burn. And we're going to make the syrup as it bakes. So adults only. We're going to take that small pot on the stove top. We're going to heat the sugar and the water, simmer until the sugar has dissolved, or about 4 minutes, and that's all you have to do for the syrup, and that'll go on when the babka has cooled a bit. So we're going to get this in the oven pretty soon, and we'll see you when it's done. The bread is baked. Is it perfect? No, it is not. Were we aiming for perfection? No, we were not. So therefore, it's exactly what we wanted. And the date sections make it look a little burnt, even though it's not quite burnt like that. Anyway, so, but it smells great, and I'm sure it's going to taste great. So if the bread was stubborn, as I'm sure you figured out by this point, you can trace around it with a knife, a butter knife or something. But mine just popped right out because it had both oil and parchment. So I don't think you're going to have trouble with that, but just in case you do. Now we need to brush our simple syrup. Again, the simple syrup was the sugar and water. And the brush ended up in the dishwasher because we were overly ambitious. So I'm just going to carefully pour over top. And make sure you don't do this when it's right out of the oven. When it's warm is when you want to pour it over. So let's go ahead and do that. Hopefully it doesn't make too big of a mess. Oh. There we go. We're working with a theme here. It's all right. New year, new exciting things. If you don't have the right tools, you MacGyver something, it's fine. All right, so there it is. We did it. Our fresh new babka. We made it together to celebrate the new year. The new year ahead of us is fresh and full of amazing possibilities. And just like this babka, it's much better enjoyed with friends and family. So thank you for joining us on our first adventure together in 2026. There will be many more to come. Thank you so much for coming with me on this ride, and I can't wait for the next one. Ooh. That looks pretty good. Not too shabby. Nice. All right. Let's try a little piece here. Sneak a piece of my coffee here. Now, it's probably a little warmer than they would suggest cutting into it, so we're just gonna cut a little end off there so we can try it. Still pretty warm. Date piece there. That's very good. Very soft, very moist. That date flavor really kicks you in the face, which is what you want with all that effort. It's very sweet, but it has that maple kind of vibe to it. Really nice for a cold winter's day, which we're about to get a lot of winter weather here pretty soon, so it'll be perfect for that. It smells really nice. Well, I'm glad it turned out because it was a lot of effort, but it doesn't always work out, but it did this time. And so I'm very happy for that. And if you're an adult, it goes good with coffee, I think. Yes, goes good with coffee. All right. That's all she wrote. That's it. I'm going to bed. See you next time.